Have yourself a very little Christmas is the 12th episode of the 5th season of The Golden Girls. This is directed by Terry Hughes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. I didn't really enjoy this one, and I think that's partly because it's another episode that focuses on Stan, and Stan is by far my least favourite recurring character. Granted, he's one of the very few recurring characters, but I find him to be tremendously boring and really irritating. There are some lovely moments in this, don't get me wrong, and I will highlight those as we go through it, but I find it hard to care about Stan. The episode starts off with Rose humming Jingle Bells and hanging up a wreath on the door, establishing that this is, of course, a Christmas-themed episode. Stanley then comes over and says, I'm going to make all you women wealthy, and he's going to have a research development lab, and he just needs $1,000 from each of them. Needless to say, Dorothy shoves him back out the door, and nobody is interested in this. They then decide that it's too hot to shop, so they are going to just pick names out of a hat and go shopping for one gift for one person. Honestly, I feel like that's pointless, because if you're going out shopping for one person, you're probably going to be able to get something for the others from the same store or a store nearby. I don't think it problem solves, but nevertheless, it's a nice enough part of the episode, but nobody wanted to get Rose. Because apparently, or they didn't want Rose to pick their name rather, because Rose apparently gives terrible gifts, which is not a very nice thing to think about, but also, who cares what somebody gets you? It's the thought that counts. So some not great thoughts or attitudes here, but we do have a pretty funny scene when they're sitting around the table and they're picking names out of this little bowl, and Dorothy gets very excited when Blanche picks her name, so she'll be getting a nice gift from Blanche, and ultimately Rose picks herself, and obviously she has to put it back, and obviously ends up getting a gift for Blanche, and she, just as she leaves the room, she says, in a couple of weeks, someone in this room is gonna know how to yodel. Which I would love. I'd love a yodeling lesson. I'm not entirely sure if it would be like on a tape or something, but that would be so much fun. That's a really fun gift, but Blanche doesn't look very enthusiastic. We then cut to Christmas morning, and Blanche opens her gift from Rose, and it's a blouse, and she's really happy with it, and well, it turns out that Rose asked Dorothy what Blanche would like, and Dorothy had said something crotchless, which, to be fair, a blouse is crotchless, so Blanche was quite happy with that. And Rose goes off to volunteer for the day down at the food kitchen, and the others decide to help her. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like when they decided to help her, it might have been partly because they were just in good spirits, but also because they maybe felt a little bit bad for saying bad things about Rose's gift buying. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but certainly that's what I think some of their motivation might have been. And the rest of the episode is down into the kitchen or the homeless shelter, and I love that as a concept. I think showing support for those in need in a TV show is a great way to encourage others to do the same. It could spark the thought in somebody, and they could think, maybe I could do that. And I think that that's always a really great thing. The other thing I love about this, and as I said, I don't love the episode, but I did love the fact that when they're I think they were in the kitchen and they were having a conversation, and it was really emphasized that anybody at any time could be in need. I think they said they're one paycheck away from suddenly needing support, whether it's just needing financial assistance or being homeless. And I think that that's such an important message, that it can happen to anybody. And first of all, that shows that if it does happen to you, there's no shame in it. It can happen to anybody. It's unfortunate, but you don't need to be ashamed of it. The other important thing there is that it's saying it could happen to you, so why don't you volunteer and help out? And maybe good karma will happen in return. So when you're in need, people will be there to help you. And I think there are some really important messages there. And I think it made it very clear, and they did a really good job of that. And then Stan is there, dressed as Santa Claus, and apparently people volunteer to do this and they get a little bit of money in exchange. So that's why he's doing it. And we learn that his wife has thrown him out, and I have no sympathy for him. He's not a good person. I don't care about him. I don't want him to be living on the streets or anything, but I find it difficult to feel anything for him. I really do not care, and I feel like it ruined the episode. I think they could have done so much more, or it could have been so much more moving if Stan wasn't involved, and they just took time to get to know other people at the homeless shelter and to hear about their stories, kind of like they did. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the lottery ticket one. where they try and find it in the coats and they go down to, I think it was a homeless shelter again. And I don't think it was the same place. It might have been, I can't remember. But that episode, I think, was so beautifully done. And if they'd done something similar here, but with the Christmas theme, I think it would have been so much more powerful and moving, because honestly, the second half of the episode I just found to be tremendously boring, and that's because it mostly focused on Stan. So, some good conversations, some heartfelt moments, some very important messages, very well delivered. But in terms of being an entertaining episode, Stan just ruined it. There are very few episodes with Stan that I truly, truly enjoy. And this could have been a personal favourite. It could have been one of the most moving and emotional, but Stan just ruins so much. And unfortunately, that's the case here. So it's not a terrible episode. I think there are a lot of benefits to it, absolutely. But in terms of being an enjoyable episode that I might watch again one day, it's unlikely. It's very, very unlikely. Have Yourself a Very Little Christmas has its moments, but unfortunately, Stan definitely ruined it for me.